Jody, the barrel reached. Come help me.
Hi, I'm from Click and Collect. We make clearing barrels from Kingston Wharves quick and easy. In 3 simple steps: sign up, pay online, collect.
Wow, it's that easy?
Yes, it's safe and easy. Simply click and collect.
Young man, you saved me a lot of time.
For more information, call or WhatsApp 876-577-8905.
Jody, the barrel reached. Come help me.
Hi, I'm from Click and Collect. We make clearing barrels from Kingston Wharves quick and easy. In 3 simple steps: sign up, pay online, collect.
Wow, it's that easy?
Yes, it's safe and easy. Simply click and collect.
Young man, you saved me a lot of time.
For more information, call or WhatsApp 876-577-8905.
Jody, the barrel reached. Come help me.
Hi, I'm from Click and Collect. We make clearing barrels from Kingston Wharves quick and easy. In 3 simple steps: sign up, pay online, collect.
Wow, it's that easy?
Yes, it's safe and easy. Simply click and collect.
Young man, you saved me a lot of time.
For more information, call or WhatsApp 876-577-8905.
Jody, the barrel reached. Come help me.
Hi, I'm from Click and Collect. We make clearing barrels from Kingston Wharves quick and easy. In 3 simple steps: sign up, pay online, collect.
Wow, it's that easy?
Yes, it's safe and easy. Simply click and collect.
Young man, you saved me a lot of time.
For more information, call or WhatsApp 876-577-8905.
Jody, the barrel reached. Come help me.
Hi, I'm from Click and Collect. We make clearing bars from Kingston Wharves quick and easy. In 3 simple steps: sign up, pay online, collect.
Wow, it's that easy?
Yes, it's safe and easy. Simply click and collect.
Young man, you saved me a lot of time.
For more information, call or WhatsApp 876-577-8905.
Jody, the barrel reach. Come help me.
Hi, I'm from Click and Collect. We make clearing bars from Kingston Wharves quick and easy. In 3 simple steps: sign up, pay online, collect.
Wow, it's that easy?
Yes, it's safe and easy. Simply click and collect.
Young man, you saved me a lot of time.
For more information, call or WhatsApp 876-577-8905.
Jody, the barrel reach. Come help me.
Hi, I'm from Click and Collect. We make clearing bars from Kingston Wharves quick and easy. In 3 simple steps: sign up, pay online, collect.
Wow, it's that easy?
Yes, it's safe and easy. Simply click and collect.
Young man, you saved me a lot of time.
For more information, call or WhatsApp 876-577-8905.
Gentlemen, my name is Jeffrey Hall, and I am chairman of your company, and as such, I will be chairman of this meeting. On behalf of the Board of Directors, I would like to welcome you to the 2022 Annual General Meeting of Shareholders of Kingston Wharves Limited. It is great to be in the presence of our shareholders who could be with us in person, and we also acknowledge our many shareholders and stakeholders watching via the live stream of our 77th Annual General Meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce our Company Secretary and Legal Counsel, Mr. Stefan Morrison, and ask that he confirm that the required quorum of 3 members present in person or by proxy has been met.
Chairman, I confirm that we have a quorum.
Thank you. I now call this meeting to order and invite our Internal Audit Manager, Mrs. Frances Mighty Hutchinson, to open in prayer.
Good morning. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we bless and magnify your holy name. You are God and God all by yourself. We are because you are. Father, thank you for our board of directors, managers, staff, customers, shareholders, and other stakeholders. Thank you for blessing Kingston Wharves Limited, sustaining it and prospering it for the last 77 years. We pray that you'll continue to guide and protect us as we continue to grow and develop. Father, bless today's proceedings. May it be successful and productive. In your mighty name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Frances. The notice convening the meeting is to be found on page 5 of the annual report. It has been circulated to members, and I now propose that we take this notice as having been read. I wish to inform you that the record date by which proxies to be exercised at this meeting must have been lodged with the company was at least 48 hours prior to the meeting. We received proxies representing 68% of the issued stock of the company. A list of those proxies is available for inspection. The share register, articles of incorporation, and minutes of the last AGM for inspection by members are also available on the company's website. Ladies and gentlemen, the accounts and the reports of the directors and auditors have been circulated previously to all members. And at this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Leighton McKnight from PricewaterhouseCoopers, the company's auditors. I'd like to call on Mr. McKnight to read the auditor's report, which may be found on pages 63 to 69 of the annual report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Directors, management, shareholders, ladies and gentlemen, a very pleasant good morning. It is my task, in accordance with the Companies Act, to read the auditor's report. It's not the most interesting thing to read or listen to, but we are being compliant by law, so I'm going to ask you to bear with me. I hope nobody have any missiles to throw when I get too boring. So the report, as was mentioned by the chairman, the entire financial statements and the report can be found on pages 62 straight to 143 in your annual report. And it reads, the independent auditor's report to the members of Kingston Wharves Limited. In our opinion, the consolidated financial statements and the standalone financial statements give a true and fair view of the consolidated financial position of Kingston Wharves Limited, referred to as the company, and its subsidiaries, together referred to as the group, and the standalone financial position of the company as at 31 December 2021, and of their consolidated and standalone financial performance and their consolidated and standalone cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with the International Financial Reporting Standards and the requirements of the Jamaican Companies Act. The group consolidated and standalone financial statement comprise the following. The group statement of financial position as at 31 December 2021, the group statement of comprehensive income for the year then ended, the group statement of changes in equity for the year then ended, the group statement of cash flows for the year then ended, the company statement of financial position as at 31 December 2021, the company statement of comprehensive income for the year then ended, the company statement of changes in equity for the year then ended, the company statement of cash flows for the year then ended, and the notes of the financial statements, which include significant accounting policies and other explanatory information. We conducted our audit in accordance with international standards on audit, we refer to them as ISAs. Our responsibilities under those standards are further described in the section titled Auditor's Responsibilities for the Audit of the Consolidated and Standalone Financial Statements section of our report. We believe that the audit evidence that we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. We are independent of the group in accordance with the International Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, issued by the International Ethics Standard Boards of the Accountants, IESBA Code. We have fulfilled our other ethical responsibilities in accordance with the code. Our audit approach. As part of designing our audit, we determined materiality and assessed the risk of material misstatement in the consolidated and standalone financial statement. In particular, we considered where management made subjective judgments to examine, for example, in respect of significant accounting estimates that involve making assumptions and considering future events that are inherently uncertain. As in all our audits, we also address the risk of management override of internal controls, including, among other matters, considerations as to whether there was evidence of bias that represented a risk of material misstatement due to fraud. We tailored the scope of our audit in order to perform sufficient work to enable us to provide an opinion on the consolidated financial statement as a whole, taking into account the structure of the group, the accounting processes and controls, and the industry in which the group operates. The significant components of the group are all located in Jamaica, with the accounting records of all entities maintained at the same location. A single audit team was responsible for the audits of all the significant components of the group. Our 2021 audit was planned and executed having regard to the fact that the operations of the group remain largely unchanged from the prior year. Key audit matters are those matters that in our professional judgment were of most significance in our audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements of the current period. These matters were addressed in the context of our audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statement as a whole and informing our opinion thereon, and we do not provide a separate opinion on these numbers. We had one key matter, and that key matter relates to the valuation of defined benefit pension assets and other retirement benefit obligations for both the group and the company. The cost of pension benefits and the present value of these benefits depend on a number of factors and assumptions. Due to the complexity of the balance, management appointed an external actuary to perform the valuation. The assumptions used in determining the assets or the pension benefits and the liabilities for the other post-employment benefits included the following. The expected long-term rate of return on the relevant plan assets, the discount rate, life expectancy, the expected rate of increase in medical costs in the case of post-employment medical benefits. Any changes in these assumptions will impact the valuation of the assets and liabilities recorded for pension and post-employment benefits. This was an area of focus due to the numerous assumptions used and because as at 31 December 2021, the values in the statement of financial position total 1.6 billion for the pension benefit, which is 4.1% and 5.1% of total asset for the group and the company respectively, and 396.7 million for the other post-employment benefits obligations, 6.5% and 7.3% respectively of total liabilities for the group and company. In order to address the matter, we performed the following procedures amongst others. We evaluated the valuation technique used to perform the valuation of the retirement benefits and found it to be consistent with the requirements of International Accounting Standards 19 employee benefits. We assessed the competence and objectivity of the management appointed actuary, confirming that they are qualified and that they had no affiliation with the group. We checked a sample of the employee data submitted to the actuary against information maintained on the employees' personnel files maintained by the group. We assessed the assumptions used by the actuary, which included comparing them to externally derived data, such as economic statistics from the Bank of Jamaica and discount rate from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Jamaica. We confirmed certain assets of the plan with the custodian of these assets and recomputed their fair value by reference to readily available external data, including quoted stock prices and yield curves. Based on the procedures performed, we found management's assumption and computations used in the valuation of the defined benefit pension asset and other retirement benefit obligations to be in line with our expectations. In terms of other information, management is responsible for the other information. The other information comprises the annual report, but does not include the consolidated and standalone financial statement and our auditor's report thereon, which is expected to be made available to us after the date of the audit report, which was made available after. Our opinion on the consolidated and standalone financial statement does not cover the other information, and we will not express any form of assurance conclusion thereon. In connection with our audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements, our responsibility is to read the other information identified above when it becomes available, and in so doing, consider whether the other information is materially inconsistent with the consolidated and standalone financial statement or our knowledge obtained in the audit, or otherwise appears to be materially misstated. When we read the annual report, if we conclude that there is a material misstatement therein, we are required to communicate the matter to those charged with governance. We read it and none such information came to our attention. Management is responsible for the preparation of the consolidated and standalone financial statements that give a true and fair view in accordance with IFRS and with the requirements of the Jamaican Companies Act, and for such internal control as management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of the consolidated and standalone financial statements that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. In preparing the consolidated and standalone financial statements, management is responsible for assessing the group and company's ability to continue as a going concern, disclosing as applicable matters related to going concern, and using the going concern basis of accounting unless management either intends to liquidate the group or the company or cease operation or has no realistic alternative but to do so. Those charged with governance are responsible for overseeing the group and company's financial reporting processes. Our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the consolidated and standalone financial statement are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinion. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but is not a guarantee that an audit conducted in accordance with ISAs will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. Misstatements can arise from fraud or error and are considered material if individually or in aggregate they could reasonably be expected to influence economic decisions of users taken on the basis of these consolidated and standalone financial statements. As a part of an audit in accordance with ISAs, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. We also do the following: identify and assess the risk of material misstatement of the consolidated and standalone financial statement, whether due to fraud or error, design and perform audit procedures to respond to these risks, and to obtain audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. The risk of not detecting a material misstatement resulting from fraud is higher than one resulting from error, as fraud may involve collusion, forgery, intentional omissions, misrepresentation, or override of internal control. We obtain an understanding of the internal control relevant to the audit in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the group and company's internal control. We evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies used and the reasonableness of accounting estimates and related disclosures made by management. We conclude on the appropriateness of management use of the going concern basis of accounting, and based on the audit evidence obtained, whether a material uncertainty exists related to events or conditions that may cast doubt on the group or company's ability to continue as a going concern. If we conclude that a material uncertainty exists, we are required to draw attention in our auditor's report to the related disclosures in the consolidated and standalone financial statements, or if such disclosures are inadequate, to modify our opinion. Our conclusions are based on the audit evidence obtained up to the date of our auditor's report. However, future events or conditions may cause the group or company to cease to continue as a going concern. We evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of the consolidated and standalone financial statements, including the disclosures, and whether their consolidated and standalone financial statements represent the underlying transactions and events in a manner that achieves fair presentation. We obtain sufficient or appropriate audit evidence regarding the financial information of the entities or business activities within the group to express an opinion on the consolidated financial statements. We are responsible for the direction, supervision, and performance of the group audit. We remain solely responsible for our opinion. We communicate with those charged with governance regarding, among matters, the planned scope and timing of the audit and the significant audit findings, including any significant deficiencies in internal control that we identify during our audit. We also provide for those charged with governance with a statement that we have complied with relevant ethical requirements regarding independence and to communicate with them all relationships and other matters that may reasonably be thought to bear on our independence and where applicable actions taken to eliminate threats or safeguard applied. From the matters communicated with those charged with governance, we determine those matters that were of most significance in the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements of the current period and are therefore key audit matters. We describe these matters in our auditor's report unless law or regulation precludes public disclosure about the matter or when in extremely rare cases or circumstances we determine that a matter should not be communicated in our report because the adverse consequences of doing so would reasonably be expected to outweigh the public interest benefits of such communication. All right, there now the last piece. As required by the Jamaican Companies Act, we have obtained the information, all the information and explanation which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purposes of our audit. In our opinion, proper accounting records have been kept, so far as appears from our examination of those records, and the accompanying consolidated and standalone financial statements are in agreement therewith and give the information required by the Jamaican Companies Act in the manner so required. The engagement partner on the audit resulting in this independent auditor's report is yours truly, Leighton McKnight. It's signed PricewaterhouseCoopers Chartered Accountants on the 1st of March 2022, which was clearly keeping with the required timeline required by the Jamaica Stock Exchange. So all compliance matters were met. Thank you very much.
You have at least one fan, Mr. McKnight. But thank you very much for reading the comprehensive auditor's report. I would now like to introduce our other directors with whom most of you will be familiar. First is our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Mark Williams. Our Vice Chairman, Mr. Grantley Stevenson. Director, Mr. Charlie Johnston. Mrs. Kathy Moss. Mrs. Charmaine Mirage. Mr. Bruce Breckheisen. Mr. Roger Hines. And not present today, but with us virtually, are Mr. Robert Scavone, Mr. Dorian Valdez, and Dr. Marshall Hall. I now ask Mr. Williams to introduce some of the senior members of the group's management team.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Certainly want to introduce the Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Clover Moody. Beside her, the Company Secretary and Legal Counsel, Mr. Stephen Morrison. Director of Terminal Operations, Valerie Campbell. Internal Audit Manager, Ms. Mrs. Mighty Hutchinson. And Managing Director for SAL, Captain George Reynolds. Mrs. Simone Murdoch, in charge of Client Services and Corporate Services. Mr. Lance Green, head of our IT department. Those are the, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mark. And Mark, before we proceed with the formal business of the meeting, I just wanted to say to shareholders that Kingston Wharves is a special company. And it's special, first of all, because what we provide is an essential service. If for a trade-dependent economy, you need a good terminal, a good port, a good logistics service to function. But it's also a special company because we operate at the border. And therefore, we're integrated with your border security, with your tax revenues. Maybe 30% of Jamaica's tax revenues come from customs and related border items. Our business of logistics is directly consistent with the national policy of the government, as will be announced today at Caymanas. And it's a special company, we believe, because Kingston Wharves is not just a Jamaican asset, but it's a global asset. As a share of volume, the majority of the business, the cargo that moves through our terminal, is coming through our terminal from other places and is leaving our terminal for other places as part of our transshipment business. And in that regard, Kingston Wharves competes globally and has to reckon with the global economic environment as a global asset. So it's a special business, and I think we're very fortunate to have a special team running that special business. And I want to thank them for their work. And you will see the results of that work in Mark's presentation. So without further ado, let's now proceed with the formal business of the meeting. And I'll invite Mr. Mark Williams, our Chief Executive Officer, to make a presentation on the performance of this business for the year 2021 and the outlook for 2022. Thank you. I just also wanted to formally welcome Mr. Kim Clark, our director, who is with us virtually. And to tender his apologies for not being here today. Thank you.
Good morning, all. Chairman Jeffrey Hall, Deputy Chairman Grantley Stevenson, directors or auditors, shareholders, members of the KW family, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is so good to have you here this morning. For the past 2 years, unfortunately, we were not able to meet like this. And certainly, for me, it's good to see all of you, especially Mr. Staple. It's really good to see you, sir. I do like the new hairstyle. I certainly am going to try it myself. As I said, you know, it has been a tough 2 years for everyone with this pandemic, global supply chain issues, wars, rumors of wars. And certainly I just want to, at the start, to thank my team, very committed set of individuals for their continued support. I want to say thank you to the board, certainly to the chairman for their leadership and governance and guidance, and a big thank you to you, our shareholders, who have continued to stick with us. And I'm very pleased this morning to report some really good news over the past year, and certainly heading into 2022. In terms of the presentation, I just want to remind us and give us a good perspective of the business that we do at Kingston Wharves. Then I'm going to give you the edited highlights of 2021, really good numbers, and to share a continued story for Q1 2022, and then to share with us some outlook and some strategic perspective that the management team has for the remainder of the year. I know, the chairman said that Kingston Wharves is really a good company, and clearly we have stakeholders and shareholders being added from time to time. So I'm just going to take a few minutes in my few opening slides just to set the context of the type of business that we do. So we're broadly into two broad areas of businesses. One, terminal operations, and the other, logistics and auxiliary services. For our terminal operations, we continue to be the Caribbean's leading multi-purpose, multi-user terminal. And for that, we're very pleased with that. For the terminal business, we are into different type of cargo. So we are into your standard containerized cargo operations. We're a big mover of motor units, of break bulk, including your steel, your cement. But we're also into moving bulk cargo, edible oils, grains. When you talk about, food supply for Jamaica, sustainability of food supply for Jamaica, Kingston Wharves has its place in that. As it relates to our logistics services, we are into third-party and logistics. We're into inventory management, order picking, warehousing, return goods, etc., the full gamut of logistics. So that's just a background of who we are. But where do we play? Our marketplace. Kingston Wharves has connection to every continent on the planet. We do business with over 45 destinations. We have connections to countries as far away as Australia, New Zealand for our multi-unit business. And we believe that it's just a matter of time before we continue to expand. Certainly, in 2021, we provided safe harbor for manufacturers, for distributors, for personal shippers, and other movers of cargo beyond the challenges of the wider supply chain. Throughout the pandemic, Kingston Wharves, the company that you have invested in, operated 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. We remain the gateway to the Americas. Certainly, large customers and stakeholders like Seaboard continue to assist us in moving cargo to ports in North America, Caribbean, and Latin America. So that's where we work. It's who we are. How does this impact you? How does this impact Jamaica as a country? We see ourselves, and certainly the Port of Kingston, as a funnel for economic growth. Kingston Wharves, as a group of company, employs approximately 900 persons. Those persons have families. The services that we provide connect the economy in so many different ways. We have agents, we have suppliers of produce, we have truckers, etc. The multiplier effect from a business like Kingston Wharves is huge. And I can tell you, I have the opportunity to lead a team of people who don't just see this as mere work, but as our contribution to national building. I just want to take this opportunity to recognize other stakeholders, certainly our unions, the NWU, UCASE, for their continued sober judgment in negotiations. Because what we do, yes, we're a private company, but what we do has so much more to offer to the economy. So I really want to salute our union partners. Let me get to the matter while you're here. to give you a good overview of 2021 performance. In 2021, I'm very pleased to report that the company, your company, recorded revenues in excess of $8.6 billion, a record year for Kingston Wharves in its 76-year history. That is 22% increase over previous year. Operating profit line, we delivered operating profit of $3.87 billion, 36% increase over 2020. That is more than 90% increase over the last 5 years. I think that is enough to be proud of as shareholders, and certainly as employees, we are very proud of that. But if I take a deeper dive into the business for you to understand a little bit more, as I said, there are two broad buckets of business that we operate, the terminal business, logistics business. You will find that our terminal business delivered revenue in excess of $6 billion. That is a 21% increase over the previous year, and operating profit of $2.7 billion, an increase of 38% over the previous year. Logistics business, similar story, good news, of $2.7 billion in revenue and $1.1 billion in operating profit. Just to share the trend even further, you will realize that both business segments demonstrated steady growth over the past 5 years as Kingston Wharves continued to make significant investments in our operations to build capacity to serve local and international clients. The terminal division that was most affected by the impact of COVID for the past 2 years has recovered well and is now on a solid path for continued growth. Our logistics business over the last 5 years have grown by 81% in revenue. We would have shared with you over the past 2 years that part of the strategic focus of our business was to move more and more of the opportunities and certainly to get more profit in our logistics business. And I like to say promise made, promise delivered. In terms of the drivers of this revenue, every cargo type that Kingston Wharves is involved in showed remarkable growth over last year. Our multi-unit business continued to grow and grow well. We stevedored in excess of 160,000 units last year, a 42% increase. Our break bulk cargo was up by over 100%. Again, commendable work for the team. Bulk cargo up 28%. The container business up by 5%. I don't want to jump ahead, but there's even better news for our container business, as you will see when we come to the third quarter. Just to give you a perspective of the range of our business and the cargo type, one of our main customer, Hogue Autoline, had a video on their LinkedIn page, which I just want to share with you, and we've adopted a bit. Just a few minutes. Okay, let me go back. I'm going back. There you go. Give us some volume, please. All right, let me just tell you what's happening. So what Hogue is showing is the global route for main cargo type like Caterpillar from the original equipment manufacturer in Houston, Texas, in the US. Then it comes to Kingston Wharves, and then it will go on to Australia. I'll move on. But the idea is, what Hogue Autoline is showing the world is that Kingston Wharves is a big player in the movement of their global machinery. We'll continue to make continued strategic investment in our multi-unit business, and we'll continue to establish our global footprint to moving cargo units around the world. What does all this mean for you, our shareholders? Okay, what does this mean for you, our shareholders? We, as a company, believe in delivering superior returns to our shareholders. You will see from the chart that shareholders' equity has grown by 7%. It's $34.9 billion. Dividend declared, Mr. Staple, has grown by 11%, and your earnings per share by 43%. I just want to spend a few more seconds on this to ask you to just take a closer look. Over the past 5 years, shareholders' equity has grown by 52%. Thank you. Dividend declared, I expect to get even more rousing applause for this. Dividend declared over the past 5 years has grown by 58%. Earnings per share by 96%. I want to tell you that certainly the management and the support of the board, we view the payment of dividend as a very important thing that we do at Kingston Wharves. You've invested your money and you expect superior returns. We want to manage that tension knowing that we operate a very capital-intensive business. I'll share with you some more about the $60 million capital program that we have. And therefore, the conversation that we have internally is to ensure that we continue to give increased dividend every year while managing our cash flow to provide funds for capital development and also to be ready with cash to make acquisitions. I think by any measure, having earnings per share growing by 96% over 5 years and dividend declared by 58% is superior performance. We at Kingston Wharves believe that it's not just what we do, it's not just about delivering good returns to our shareholders, but being a good corporate citizen. And we've taken that role very seriously. We are committed to playing our part in building a safer, healthier, and a more prosperous Jamaica. Thank you. I thank you for that, amen. Over last year, we have been very focused on ensuring the good health of our staff, their family members, and our business associates. And therefore, we facilitated 3 COVID-19 vaccination opportunities. And we had over 1,000 persons being vaccinated. We believe that the youth of Jamaica are really the future, and we've invested heavily in youth development, particularly in sports. And we like to say that we have been the longest sponsor of West Indies cricket in the entire Caribbean for over 30 years. Thank you. International players like Christopher Henry Gale, Andre Russell, and the new Marquino Medley have all come through Kingston Wharves under-15 cricket program. We continue to support, thank you. We continue to support Father Holong and the Brothers of Missionary of the Poor in being good corporate citizens. That's a good overview of last year. What I want to do now quickly is to take you through the edited highlights of the first quarter results. I did say to you that the story of the good news of 2021 continues in 2022. You will see from the slide that our revenue, first quarter, has grown to $2.2 billion, an increase of 21%. I'm very pleased to say that we have done this with minimal increase in rates to our business partners. It was just about 3%. I want you to know that we are very focused on building a better Jamaica, a better Caribbean for our people. The supply chain issues and increase in prices, those are not coming from Kingston Wharves. I want you to know that. Our profit before tax has grown by 19%, again, in the first quarter. I did say to you the first quarter results, certainly for a container business, last year it grew by only 5%. So far this year, we are in excess of 100% for our transshipment business. The investment that you have made in Kingston Wharves as shareholders is a solid investment. It's not just dependent on what's happening in the local economy, but based on the footprint of Kingston Wharves, 45 countries we're trading with, your investment is secured. Without naming names, I want to certainly, let shareholders know that we talk about our large business partner in Hogue. We have an equally large business partner in Seaboard, and certainly much of the increase in container movement can be credited to Seaboard. So what's the outlook for 2022? We've had a good 2021. So far this year, it has been good. What of the outlook for 2022? There are some real challenges. We're in the midst of fifth COVID wave. There are high interest rates, the war in the Ukraine, supply chain issues. But we feel that there are also some good opportunities, certainly opportunities for nearshoring. So what we did as a management team is to take a look at the forecast for the environment and plan our strategy around that. The strategy continues to be very focused on building a world-class workforce, focus on people, focus on our plant, getting the infrastructure ready for what we do, focus on our processes, ensure that it's driven by technology and efficiency so that we can deliver efficient service to our customers and certainly to give a good return to your shareholders. So it's about, thank you. So it's about people, it's about plant, it's about processes, delivering good experience to our customers and delivering good profits. I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk about two of these broad strategic imperatives. The first I want to focus on is the processes, a digital transformation. In 2022, KW will continue to expand its web-based contactless cargo clearance service that allows our customer to simply pay online and schedule curbside pickup. We believe that this is a change in the local environment, industry, for this type of activity. Other key components of our digital transformation will involve improvement in our terminal operating system to maximize our ability to seamlessly communicate and manage vessel operations. We have a learning management system that will allow our team members to have greater access to online training and certification. We are very focused on building a world-class workforce. We believe training, international certification, local certification is important in that focus. Our digital technology will also drive our security operations. And in 2020, I shared with you, shareholders, that in partnership with the Port Authority of Jamaica, we spent in excess of $2 million to safeguard our terminal, to ensure it's best in class, to ensure that our international partners are comfortable with the security infrastructure and the security ecosystem of Jamaica. And I'm very pleased to say that we believe that we have achieved that. We would have had several international audits, security audits since then, and I'm very pleased to announce that we have passed all of those. Kingston Wharves will continue its investment in digital technology, and that's allowed us as a Caribbean operation to receive this prestigious international award from the Association of American Port Authority and Organization of the American States. This award was given to Kingston Wharves for excellence in technology and innovation. Thank you. We competed with over 26 other ports in the Caribbean and North America and Latin America, and your company, Kingston Wharves, is the proud winner and recipient of Award for Excellence and Innovation. Thank you. Certainly on behalf of the entire team, Mr. Lance Green and his team, I want to just acknowledge their efforts in getting this done. So that's on process for technology and digital transformation. But as we move to improve the digital infrastructure, we also want to do similarly for the physical infrastructure. And again, last year I shared with you, our shareholders, that we had big plans to invest in our physical infrastructure. Promise made, promise delivered. This year we were very pleased to have the Honorable Prime Minister coming to break ground for this US $60 million infrastructure. It involved 3 main projects: the purchase of a new post-Panamax mobile harbor crane that was delivered, that is in operation, being used to deliver all of this increase that you're seeing in container movements. The Bird 7 project, that has been awarded to an international contractor. They have started the preliminary works. All the preliminary works have been done. The design has been done. That has been submitted to the local authority. We're awaiting approval. We have ordered the steel. I want you to know that we're mindful of the global supply chain issues and price escalation, certainly for steel. And we have gotten ahead of that. And we've booked the steel, and we should be ready in another few months with the physical work on the ground. I made mention of the challenges in the outlook, but also the opportunities for nearshoring. And again, our Ashnine Road project, ground has been broken again for that, and all the drawings, etc., are with the local municipality. We expect to commence phase 2 of that development very shortly. Phase 1 has been completed. We've done the site clearance and all the preliminary works, and we'll be ready to do phase 2 in a matter of weeks. We believe that the opportunities for nearshoring are real. We have a solid track record in logistics, as you've seen, and we believe that we can add value to the business and those opportunities that will come. I just want to share maybe the last 2 slides with you, that as we continue to focus on growing our profit, we talk about our people, we talk about our processes, we talk about the plant. As we continue to grow profit, we're looking to expand our business. We're looking to acquire similar businesses, businesses that complement what we do, and also to diversify our cargo type. I shared with you last year that we were looking to move further into diversification of cargo type. I'm pleased to tell you that we are at a very, very advanced stage to close a deal on that. Finally, with all that said, I believe that we are securing our future. These developments are positioning Kingston Wharves to build a secured future. KW is strengthening the business, expanding our operations, and diversifying the cargo type we handle. As we roll out our capital investment initiatives, we will maximize the use of our special economic zone and digital transformation to offer value-added services to manufacturers and distributors. Through our investment initiatives, KW is consolidating its position as a key gateway in international market. The horizon ahead might be uncertain, but we continue to forge ahead in confidence, knowing that we have taken the right steps to achieve success. We have a strong and expansive vision. We've laid the groundwork. We've made investments in our physical and digital infrastructure. We have equipped our people, and we're putting in the hard work. Our business, your company, is prepared for the future, and we look forward to your continuing support as we share our journey with you. Thank you so much. And I understand that our video is ready, so before the chairman comes back, we can go ahead and it's just about a minute and a half.
Thank you very much, Mark. Ladies and gentlemen, we invited our shareholders to submit questions, and we also invite persons present to raise questions, and I'll take them in due course, the shareholder questions. But for those present, we can begin with any questions for myself and for the management team. Mr. Staple.
Mr. Chair. Good morning to you, members of the board, fellow shareholders, and employees. Mr. Chair, with your permission, I have a few observations that I would like to share with us. So with your permission, sir, I would like to start off with those observations that I have. With your permission.
Welcome back to the face-to-face meeting. Mr. Staple.
I think this is an opportunity we can't before, sir. And your members for Mr. Chair, first of all, in my observation, thank you, Lord, for taking us safely to our meeting today. And may you fill us with your Holy Spirit as we invite you in our midst today. Bless our chairman, members of the board, employees, shareholders, customers, and each and every one online for participating in our meeting. Thank you, Lord, for taking us safely after this meeting back to our various destinations. Mr. Chair, very good presentation of management discussion and analysis. This truly has enabled us as shareholders to understand more clearly what Kingston Wharves is about. Thanks to our Mr. Williams, our CEO, and his staff and for this presentation. Mr. Chair, thank you for our board evaluation, which is being done annually, and which has enabled us as a company to achieve the high level of operation at the local level and at the international level. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and your board members. I would like also to thank Mr. Leighton McKnight for his very professional presentation of the audit reports over the years. May God's blessing go with him as he goes into his retirement. Thank you, Mr. McKnight. My questions, Mr. Chair. Turn me to page 69. Mr. Chair, in 2020, bear with me, Mr. Chair. In 2020, our total revenue was $7.7 billion in 2020, and our expenses was $5.4 billion, which gave us a net profit of $2.275 billion. For every dollar in 2020, we spent 71 cents, and we gained a net profit of 29 cents. In 2021, Mr. Chair, we had total revenue of $9.4 billion, which cost us $6.1 billion. For every dollar, we spent 65 cents, and we made a profit of 35 cents. Incrementally, Mr. Chair, that is, in 2021, when we reached the 2020 figures, those numbers incrementally was $1.6 billion, and that cost us $659.9 million, which gave us a net profit of $974.9. For every dollar, incrementally, we spent 40 cents, and we gained a profit of 60 cents. Good performance, Mr. Chair, but still our expenses are pretty high. Despite the good performance of our group, our expenses remain very high. What are your plans to have this expense line item reduced so that our shareholders can receive more benefits in terms of dividends? Your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Staple. Mark, expenses.
Thank you, Mr. Staple. I just want to say that is the first thing that keeps me up at night, the expense line. But to get back to the question, if you look at the numbers a little more, Mr. Staple, you realize that the cost efficiency ratio has actually improved. But I want to say two things. The more transshipment business that we do, the revenue is smaller, but the costs remain the same at a high level. The other thing I want you to be mindful of is when you increase volumes, as we did for Breakbulk, by 102%, you're using more labor, you're using more equipment, you're using more fuel, you're renting more equipment to do the work. So what you need to understand, and I'm sure you do, is that the expense line will jump a bit, but we're I can assure you that it's been managed. The cost efficiency ratio actually moved from 68% to 63%. There are other fixed costs and also variable costs. If you look, for example, at fuel, the price of fuel last year, when we look at the numbers, it has been up by 45%. If you look also at electricity, what I'm saying is that the input cost continues to rise, but my commitment to you, and from you can see the results, is that we are managing it, and I believe managing it really well. There is room for improvement, of course, and it has our focus.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. But at the same time, I would like for you to look at that with your board and your fellow employees to see how best we can control that expense line. I know we are getting 25 cents reduction in gas today, but next week we are going to have an increase of $4 something.
Right, right.
So,
Chair, excuse me, Mr. Staple.
that's it.
You have my commitment that we'll address this, but I do note, as Mr. Williams mentioned, that net profit margins are up, and this area has the full attention of management.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Chair. Page 74. Mr. Chair, who actually can purchase these treasury shares? And what short-term investments account for this high level of cash and cash equivalents at the beginning of 2021 and the increase over 2020 by approximately 16%? Who can purchase these?
Let me just take them one at a time. So number one, Clover, as CFO, if you could comment on who can purchase treasury shares and then the composition of cash and cash equivalents.
Okay.
Good morning.
Mr. Chair.
One second, Mr. Staple. Unless you wanted that for comment, I'll give Ms. Moody an opportunity to react.
Mr. Staple. Good morning, shareholders. The treasury shares were actually purchased by our ESOP, and the persons who are eligible to purchase these shares would be employees. So we have eligible employees, and it's based on the rules of the ESOP that can actually purchase the shares. And your second question made mention of what accounted for the increase in the high level of cash and cash equivalents. Kingston Wharves' position is that all funds that we have is actually invested in short-term instruments, and so we have invested in CDs and repurchase agreements, and those funds are earmarked for expansion, as Mr. Williams mentioned earlier, and to fund our capital projects. And
Thank
the
you very
growth
much.
would have been from our profits.
Thank you, Clover.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, turn me to page 136. The Port Authority of Jamaica requires that both the asset replacement and rehabilitation and the depreciation reserves of $217 million in total for 2021 be represented by a fund consisting of cash or highly liquid securities. Why is this requirement of the Port Authority? Your comments.
You know, Mr. Staple, at the outset of the meeting, I mentioned that Kingston Wharves performs an essential service. And that essential service requires us to maintain a very significant, well-invested, capital-intensive port. And this requirement of the Port Authority is designed to ensure that this company has the capital necessary to maintain and develop that facility. But I'd like to refer your question to Clover Moody for any more specifics.
This reserve was actually established back in 1997, and it is meant, as our chairman said, to maintain the port facility and the terminal facility, and so it's a requirement. So each year we're expected to set aside an amount, a specific amount actually for the asset replacement and rehabilitation, which is approximately 12.6 million, and also to set aside an equivalent amount of our depreciation to be set aside for capital rehabilitation works.
But if
Thank you
feel
very
that
much.
we
Just
should
two
not
more
be-
questions, then I'll finish.
If you have the view, Mr. Staple, that this amount should not be as significant, we'd be happy to convey that on your behalf to the Port Authority.
Just two more questions, then I'll finish, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, page 142. This provision of 16% wharfage reserve, total 173 million in 2021 versus 141 million in 2020. How will this be used? Your comments.
Let me just say to you that the wharfage reserve, again, relates to our shared view, frankly, with the Port Authority, that our business is an essential service. And not only must we have the capacity to maintain our very substantial capital investment in the terminal, but also from time to time, there may be needs that are related to our employees, to allow for flexibility in relation to the labor force, that also can call upon these reserves. But the main point, Mr. Staple, is that these reserves are designed to ensure the continuity of this business.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And my last question. At the last AGM, our CEO indicated that a deposit was made on a mobile harbor crane at a cost of 5.2 million US. Has this been received?
Mark, did you get your crane?
I'm very pleased to say receive and in operation. Receive and it is in operations.
That crane is today discharging containers,
So that is in
Mr.
place?
Staple.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
What of the international tender for the major redevelopment of Berth 7 to optimize our berthing capacity? What about
Tender
that?
has been awarded and the contract is in place. And as I said in my presentation, preliminary works have started. Steel has been paid for. Slots have been identified and confirmed. And you will see work on the ground in a few months.
Mr. Staple, your comment about costs, it's important to realize that the capital investment that's being incurred, although significant for cranes and for berth redevelopment, are designed in part to allow for capacity expansion, but also to allow for the efficiency of the terminal. And I'd like to take one more question for you, Mr. Staple, if you have it, and then allow others to ask a question.
Mr. Chair. Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, and good to see you again in person. And for shareholders, please state your name for the record and indicate whether you are a shareholder.
Stan Young. So I can't find the board attendance. I can't find the board attendance meeting, but I find earlier, but I can't find that. I'm big enough for that to attend the regular meeting. That gentleman, I don't quite remember what is his name. Mr. Williams or what's his name. I asked him a question. I hear mention about the grains. Before we go to the financial statement, I hear mention about grains and import. I have a question to ask. Why is it to say, Jamaica, I come from the country. Back in the days, St. Thomas I come from, people usually plant corn, like corn and what do you call it? Corn and, gosh, and, no man, corn and I forgot about the next part. Anyway, corn at Jamaica. See, why you can't think of a grow corn at Jamaica for grow, for do less burden for import? Explain that to me.
Sorry, say the question again.
The gentleman, Mr. Williams, he mentioned about corn and the import.
Right.
So
you're asking why is our port facilitating the importation of grain into Jamaica? Okay.
Yeah, why you can't do some the growing, buy some piece of land and grow corn in Jamaica and stuff.
All right, good question. Thank you.
Livingston, Mr. Livingston.
Young, right?
Livingston Young. Yes. As a port, we see ourselves as facilitator for trade. So certainly we would love to speak with the Exporters and Manufacturers Association about doing that. But our focus is not on getting involved in agriculture, but in facilitating trade, primarily in Jamaica, within the region, and internationally.
You know,
But
Mr.
just to be clear, Mr. Young from St. Thomas, last week on the seaboard, son, we exported bananas from Jamaica
Congratulations.
through that same facility of Kingston Wharves.
You know, when me go Seafood Primary School at St. Thomas, when school give holiday, just a quick story, just to say something. When my people believe in doing agriculture, back in the 80s, when I go to primary school, I have to put on, my people come from England, so I have to put on a bread and as we are picnic, I have to grow acres of corn, broke corn. I never like when summer come, I never like go in a, you know, it's so hot then this. So I say, boy, sometimes you can do local thing at Jamaica help on yourself still.
No, let me just say this, because it's a serious question, Mr. Young. And let me just say, because Mark reflected the point you're making about the role of the logistics facility. We are definitely facilitators of trade in line with the trade rules and trade laws, duties, restrictions, tariffs, phytosanitary norms, etc. So our job is to make sure that trade is possible. There's no question that right now Jamaica imports more commodities, more tangible goods than it exports. But we definitely see an opportunity for Jamaica looking forward, particularly in the context of nearshoring, particularly in the context of light manufacturing that can take advantage of our labor costs in the context of near full employment in the U.S., for Jamaica to have export growth. And any person that wishes to use our terminal for export will get the full attention of Kingston Wharves. Now, that said, people do approach us to do strategic investments to allow for imports, some of which are quite complex, including for grain, and we support that as well. Those are loyal customers of this business, and we take it very seriously, and frankly, it allows us to maintain the dividends that we spoke about earlier. But I thank you for your question.
I'll move on to financial statement. You can turn to page 69. Revenue. No, 8, 9, 10. Dear Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
2021 and 20. Director's costs, gross profit, others, operating income, admission, expense, operating profit, financial costs, profit before taxation. No, you can explain to me 2021, that first, just 21 alone. You know? 8,674,000. This bracket, Monsieur, give me an explanation. 4,278,000. Can you give me an explanation? Just 2021 alone.
Yeah, I can. So the top line, the revenue line, deals with amounts of money that third parties have paid Kingston Wharves for its services. That's a gross revenue line. The second line is a very important line. No, not that one. Direct costs.
Yeah, direct costs, yeah.
Which is the one you referenced, which is the cost that we incur directly to incur that revenue. And it goes up with the revenue and it goes down with the revenue. And obviously, we have to maintain our facility. We have to have the place well managed. And those are the operating expenses. The good news is that when you subtract all those expenses from the total amounts that people paid us, this business made a profit of $3.2 billion in 2021, which is up significantly from the $2.275 billion in 2020. And that's the bottom line that this page is showing us. Yeah.
All right, out of the net profit, the tax, it's a tax expense, 10 of what, 46 million? 468, yeah. Before you, out of the 3 million or something, before you make this amount, have to take out the tax. How much left you have out right now? 2, yeah, I see it, right. You can turn to, all right, turn to page 102. This is USC I make now. You have a high interest rate risk. Well, listen, yeah.
All right, Mr. Young, we can take one more question and we'll open it to others.
Just give me a time. Make your time. Because it's a business, Kingston have a business. I mean, Mr. Man love business, you know. Love to talk about business.
All right.
All right, Mr. Chairman. Based upon, all right, well, let me go first. Wait. You have plus 2 minus 8 of 54,831,000. The company. The other line, it is a group 2021 of what? 97,520,000 plus minus 6 of what? 292 million in 2020. Explain to me, like how the devaluation of Jamaican dollar, because it's interest rate risk, market risk. Explain to me this instrument. Because the dollar must value a 3 cent or something like that. When you do that listing, explain to me because you have to buy most in the Jamaican dollar in the US. Explain to me all this a little bit, please. The group and the company.
I'm going to explain to you. And it's not just you that's thinking about this, frankly. I think all of us are or should be, which is what happens to our businesses in which we've invested if the exchange rate moves in one direction or another. And so what we decided to do, in accordance with IFRS and audited by PricewaterhouseCoopers, is to write down for you to see what the implications of movement in the exchange rate are on the profits before tax of this business. And what we're showing is that a depreciation in the exchange rate by a certain percentage depreciation in the J dollar results in additional profit, and an appreciation can adversely affect the profits. Now, why is that? Part of that is because, in general, we invoice in US dollars, but part of it is because we have cash balances reserved to make capital investments, to buy cranes, to build berths, cranes, equipment. And so we have cash balances, investments in US dollars. Over the last 30 years, by and large, we've seen a depreciation in the J dollar relative to the US dollar. And that means that keeping that money in US dollars has protected the company.
All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Young. Good to see you again, too. Yeah. I didn't know well, I'm not going to comment on your St. Thomas heritage. Good to see you again. If there are no other questions, shareholders, we do have some questions that were written in for us. So I will acknowledge those questions through our Company Secretary, Mr. Stephen Morrison, if there are no other questions on the floor. Okay. Stephen, if you could just state the name of the shareholder who raised the question.
Okay, these questions that I'm about to read came in from a shareholder named David Rose. Mr. Rose's first question. Has there been any projections done on the successful impact relating to the expansion of Berth 7 and the associated rise in business activity from Panama Canal-sized vessels? Could you also remind us of the timeline for the expansion and completion date?
Certainly. I'm going to ask Mr. Williams to give us a view on the timing, but I can assure Mr. Rose that the board would have considered projections for cargo as well as expectations for the size of ships and the nature of the cargo and the space required. And on that basis, we approve the investment and its returns. Timelines?
Certainly, approximately 12 months.
The second question. KW will be utilizing a mix of debt and, KW will be utilizing a mix of debt and cash from operations to fund its USD 60 million expansion plans. Have any major plans been made as yet with local or multinational banks to arrange this funding amid rising interest rates domestically and abroad?
I can assure the shareholders that we've identified a source of finance for these projects, and they do include debt financing sourced from local banks.
Okay. Third question from Mr. Rose for the CFO. Does the reevaluation of the Jamaican dollar, and we answer this question largely.
I think it's for Mr. Rose to ask the question.
Okay.
You can just go ahead and read it, please, Stefan.
Does the reevaluation of the Jamaican dollar with respect to the United States dollar result in a lower recognition amount on the company's financial statement? In other words, if you earn USD $100, would the new rate of 153 to 1 in March versus 155 to 1 in December mean you report $200 Jamaican less on the P&L?
Okay, so I would refer Mr. Rose to note 3, but I don't know, Clover, CFO, if you have any further comment on that.
The only thing I'd want to add to that is that as on the revenue side would have seen a reduction, we do have costs that are denominated in US dollars, which would have an opposite effect and would offset any impact that may arise from that change in revaluation.
Fourth question. Were there any major hurdles in getting the SEZ designation?
So I can comment on that a bit. There are administrative challenges and hurdles to get the SEZ designation. Our team worked very closely with the SEZ authority. We think it's an important opportunity for Jamaica in the current environment. So the short answer is, it is a challenging process, and it also requires some expense. But we do think it is worth it for Kingston Wharves looking forward.
The fifth question from Mr. Rose. How has the group treated with digital security amid its continued digitization of associated services with platforms such as Click and Collect?
Great question. Mr. Williams, do you want to comment on cybersecurity?
Certainly, cybersecurity is a real and present threat for us. All our staff members have been trained in cybersecurity. We believe, certainly at this time, we have a robust security infrastructure in place, which include digital and technological transformation.
But I think it's an important question, and I appreciate it, and it's something that we are giving thought to at the level of governance, but also investing in our systems. And it's great to be recognized as a leader in this area of technology generally as a port.
Thank you, Chairman. Is there any case where, by the delay in goods being processed at the port where KW is located, would have a significant impact on the company's operation? Also, is the supply chain disruption and reduction in imports an associated negative for the company rather than a positive as more businesses look to nearshore through Jamaica? Okay.
I guess the question is, delays in clearance is one, and the net benefits, if any, of supply chain challenges globally?
Chairman, we're part of a global ecosystem. And while we're not immune to the shocks and adverse impact of supply chain challenges, what I can assure the shareholder is that our record has certainly shown that we continue to process the movement of cargo in good time. Certainly, during COVID, as I said, we operate 24 hours per day. We were clearing oxygen for the hospitals at 2 o'clock in the morning. Kingston Wharves is a 24/7 operations. We're an essential service, and therefore, during time of lockdowns, our staff were allowed to come through those security curfews, and our focus has always been to deliver promptly to our customers.
There was at the height of this supply chain issue globally, there was a big conversation in which the U.S. stakeholders, government interests, shipping interests, were speaking about their major terminals extending their workday to 24 hours, and the constraints for them with that, and the impact on consumer prices and availability of products, etc. We just want to say to the world, Kingston Wharves is open 24 hours, every day of the week. You can bring the business right here, drop the cargo here, and whenever you're ready for it and your ports are open, come and get it. That's the core business that we're in, and we're committed to it. Admittedly, we can't do it by ourselves. We have to create a core fundamental ecosystem, and Jamaica, this is the moment for it, because the forces are allowing it to happen. But when that cargo comes here and is left here in Jamaica, it cannot be overtaxed or overregulated. And that really is the priority for us right now, because we have to create that space to invest in it and to create the opportunities that come for it for all of us.
Any major updates on the Ashenheim warehouse development? Also, will KW continue to expand its warehouse offerings considering the prior SSL REIT 50% acquisition in the past?
I think that the presentation spoke directly to the initiatives in relation to Ashenheim Road and that warehouse, and that constitutes our current real estate initiative that we intend to execute upon.
Is the associated rise in staff costs, note 7, related to the additional labor required to process business in 2021, or is it salary adjustments as compared to in 2019, which was the last normalized year?
Yeah, the staff costs reflect a combination of all of those things.
The final two questions. Will KW consider adopting an ESG, that's Environment, Social, and Governance page, component next year and publicly disclose its JSE Corporate Governance Index? What was KW's score been like in the last 3 years?
Sure. As far as the ESG, KW and Mark Williams spoke to it, has internal goals in relation to and outcomes that are positive in relation to our commitment to the environment, to the community. We've documented in great detail in our annual report our governance standards as well. And certainly we continue to give focus to this. We're looking at the best ways to communicate that to shareholders and other stakeholders, and we'll continue to do so in the years ahead. As far as the corporate governance score, I don't know, Stefan, if you have a comment on that.
So over the last, not just 3 years, but 5 years, we've ranged from a B to a double B, and we're putting a lot of work in to make sure that that progresses for next year.
Thank you.
The last question. How does the company plan to charter the waters between rising inflation, rising interest rates, and further geopolitical disruptions?
Very carefully.
Thank you. One last comment. Mr. Rose sends his regard to Ms. Moss and other directors.
Well, I think it's important to acknowledge David Rose's attention to detail and focus and commitment to the governance process and to the review of the financials. And so I thank you, Stefan, for taking us through that. As far as interest rates and inflation and geopolitical challenges, those definitely do receive the attention of the board. We have looked at our financing costs generally, as well as the tenure of the financing, to take account of the current environment. We're obviously looking at how we can manage our costs, notwithstanding inflation, but also pass on a fair share of cost to customers while ensuring the continuity and stability of the business relationships that we have. As far as the geopolitics go, we can't influence those, but we do believe that as long as we maintain our service levels and the Jamaican economy remains generally healthy, because we are a trade-dependent region, our role ought to continue. Where the commodities come from may change in the geopolitical environment, but we ought to continue to have a business. If there are no other questions, I'd like to thank shareholders for their observations and their suggestions. And I would now wish to proceed with the consideration of the resolutions before us. I refer to the first item of business, which is to receive and approve the audited financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2021. The accounts and the reports of the directors and auditors have been previously circulated to all members. And Mr. Leighton Fire McKnight from PricewaterhouseCoopers has read the report. I now ask that the director's report, which may be found on page 25 of the annual report and is available for review by our shareholders, be presented on the screen. I'll now ask our secretary to read the first resolution for consideration.
That the audited financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2021, and the reports of the directors and auditors circulated with the notice convening the meeting be adopted.
We have a proposer. Thank you, Mr. Staple. A seconder. Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? I declare the motion carried. Ordinary resolution number 2.
That as recommended by the directors, the interim dividend of 23 cents per share paid on August 18, 2021, and of 37 cents per share paid on January 17, 2022, be and are hereby declared as final, and no further dividend be paid in respect of the year under review.
We have a proposer. Mr. Staple, thank you. A second. You state your name, sir? Paris. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Let me just declare the motion carried, and I'll take your comment. Yes, please.
I call the constant decline in Jamaica. If you get $4,000 dividends, right? $4,000 can't do nothing again, you know. We agree, Mr. Chairman, you pay a good thing there. I'm concerned about what going on in Jamaica. I'm concerned because I'm a shareholder. As I say, I love business bad. See?
Right. Mr. Young, we're going to entertain.
Let me just go to get the point. Let me get to the point. We need some more. We increase the dividend because $4,000 no money, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, that massive.
I appreciate the comment, and I'll ensure that it's reflected in the board discussion in relation to future dividends. Thank you, Mr. Young. Ordinary resolution number 3. The directors retiring from office by rotation pursuant to Article 107 of the company's Articles of Incorporation are Messrs. Bruce Breckheisen, Charles Johnston, Robert Scavone, and myself, Jeffrey Hall. All of the retiring directors being eligible offer themselves for re-election. With that, I now ask our secretary to read the third resolution for consideration. Yes, sir.
You being part of it, shouldn't you have limited and someone else take over initially?
Yes, I'll take your advice in relation to my nomination. Thank you, Mr. Staple, keeping us on our toes. Resolution in relation to Mr. Breckheisen, please.
That Mr. Bruce Breckheisen be and is hereby re-elected a director of the company.
Proposer. Thank you. Mrs. Johnston, a seconder. Mr. Hines, all in favor? A show of hands. Any opposed? The ayes have it. I declare the motion carried. Stefan.
That Mr. Charles Johnston be and is hereby re-elected a director of the company.
Mrs. Johnston, you sure? A second? Mr. Staple, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? I declare the motion carried.
That Mr. Robert Scavone be and is hereby re-elected a director of the company.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnston. Mr. Harris, seconds. All in favor? I'm going to hand over the meeting to Mr. Grantley Stevenson, Deputy Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everyone. The motion is that Mr. Jeffrey Hall be and is hereby re-elected a director of the company. May I have a proposer? There's Mr. Staple and the seconder, Mrs. Johnson. Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, please raise their hand. Those against? I declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. There's an ordinary resolution number 3B that by election in accordance with Article 108 of the company's Articles of Incorporation, the following director retires, having been appointed in 2021 and is eligible for election. Mrs. Charmaine Mirage, who retires after having been appointed to the board in 2021, be and is hereby elected a director of the company. May I have a proposer? Thank you, Mr. Staple. A second. Thank you, Mrs. Johnston. All those in favor? Any opposed? I declare the motion carried unanimously. Mrs. Mirage. Shareholders, before I ask our secretary to read the fourth resolution, I would like to take this time on behalf of the board of the company to acknowledge and express our appreciation for the work of our outgoing auditor, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and in particular, our auditor, Mr. Leighton McKnight. Excuse me? And Allison, for your sterling service to the company over many years. I think that shareholders have certainly come to rely on your good judgment and integrity and track record. Thank you, Mr. Bernard, as well. Kingston Wharves, Mr. Staple.
Mr. Chair, I agree with your observation on Mr. Lake. He has done a tremendous job and continues to do so even in his retirement. He knows his business very well, and I'm sure if we call on him at any time in the night, a question to be answered, he'll be willing to do so.
I think he deserves a round of applause. I've seen Mr. McKnight, answer difficult questions over many years, and it's always a straightforward, easy to understand breaking down of very complex accounting matters for all of us, and I value that and appreciate it. Kingston Wharves has a direct relationship with Jamaica Producers Group, and this is documented in our financials of both enterprises. And the nature of the audit process is such that both enterprises, we believe, benefit, as well as the shareholders, importantly, and if they share the same audit firm. This is advice that has been given to us formally by the profession. And with that, this company seeks to transition to KPMG audit firm to facilitate greater alignment in the audit process between Jamaica Producers Group and Kingston Wharves using the same audit firm. And with that, I would like to ask our Company Secretary to read the fourth resolution.
That KPMG Chartered Accountants be and are hereby appointed auditors of the company in replacement of the retiring PricewaterhouseCoopers to hold office until the next annual general meeting at a remuneration to be fixed by the directors of the company.
Have a proposer? Thank you, Young. Second? Mr. Hines? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, I declare the motion carried. Director's fees. I now ask our Secretary to read the fifth resolution before the meeting, which concerns the remuneration of directors. Please note that the director's fees for 2021 are indicated on page 111 of the annual report.
That the amounts shown in the account of the company for the year ended December 31, 2021, as fees for the directors for their service as directors be and are hereby approved.
Proposer? Mr. Young is proposing a raise for the directors. Do you want to propose a motion? Mr. Staple.
I would like to see for the future that management, the line item marked management remuneration be represented in the report. I don't see that.
Okay.
Management remuneration. If there is one for director's fees.
Yes. Okay.
I would like to see a line item, and I would like to know after this meeting what was the value of management
Okay.
remuneration. I don't see that in the report.
Okay, we do have an audit committee chair, and we do have auditors, and we do have a related party note, and we can state for you
Mr.
on
Chairman.
page 133.
33.
I'll draw your attention to that, and I'll ask our CFO to share the number with you.
On page 133, note 23, management remuneration for the group for the year 2021 $80,294,000. 133.
But just so you know, Mr. Staple, the amount of management remuneration included in salaries above is $80,294,000. So with that, and your comment, Mr. Young, about the increase in fees, which we will convey to the full board, may I have a proposal? Mrs. Johnston, second, Harris. All in favor? Any opposed? I declare the motion carried. Shareholders, I would like to discuss with you ordinary resolution number 6, which is an amendment to your articles of incorporation. And members may remember that last year, the company obtained permission from the Supreme Court of Jamaica to conduct this AGM electronically. Prior to 2021, the Companies Act did not empower companies to conduct hybrid or virtual-only annual general meetings. And we're able to report that in 2021, the Companies Act of Jamaica was amended to insert a definition for the word electronic, as well as to insert provisions that allow companies to host hybrid and virtual-only meetings. So this company now seeks to update its articles of incorporation to reflect some of the amendments that were made to the Companies Act of 2021. And there are 3 proposed amendments to our articles. The first is to add a definition for the words electronic means so that it's precise and clear. The second is to allow the company to host hybrid and virtual meetings, and to specifically allow the company to host hybrid or virtual annual general meetings, being the third resolution. So with that, I'd like to ask our secretary, Stephen Morrison, to read the 6th resolution before this meeting.
That the articles of incorporation be and are hereby amended as follows. Inserting a definition for electronic means in Article 1, which I'll provide as follows. Electronic means any method of dispatch or communication of sounds, documents, maps, photography, graphs, plans, or other data which involves the use of equipment or technology having electrical, digital, magnetic, wireless, optical, electromagnetic, photographic, or similar capabilities, including but not limited to facsimile, machines, the internet, webcasting, teleconferencing, video conferencing, live stream, or broadcast, and mail sent via computers and scanning devices.
May I have a proposer? Hall, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I think you see, I'm not against because of the COVID thing. I think you see, like on the face-to-face thing and also the virtual. I think looking at the situation, you can have some, sure, like 10 face-to-face and the rest online. The other thing, so before the COVID thing come in, the stocks went up about $80 or something like that. And I asked a question, say, I answer, but I don't know thing. I asked if you can get a stock split, and I never seen doing it. But $80 the stocks today. I'm asking a stock split, and I never seen doing about it.
Thank you, Mr. Young. On your first point, the articles proposed will allow for a hybrid meeting, which would have some persons being present and others being having access by electronic means.
Thank you,
And in relation to your second question, stock split is something that we will continue to review going forward. May we have a proposal in relation to the definition of electronic means? Hines, thank you. A second? Mr. Staple, thank you. All in favor? Let me just conclude the resolution, if you don't mind. Mr. Staple, any opposed? I declare the motion carried. Mr. Staple?
Yes, sir. In terms of the definition, hybrid meeting is like what you have here now. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. It has elements of a hybrid meeting. I think a hybrid meeting technically would, in fact, we're going to have a definition here for your review. But the short answer is a hybrid meeting would allow some persons to access virtually and others to be physically present, as we're in fact doing today.
I have no objection to the hybrid. I have an objection to the virtual.
Okay.
Because virtual means that no one will be physically able to attend the meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
And I think what we are heading for in this company is that our shareholders, as best as possible, attend physically at our meetings. And virtual will be eliminated. Am I correct?
A virtual meeting means a meeting in which the attendees participate from numerous physical locations, whether inside or outside of Jamaica, through the facility of the internet or intranet, by use of integrated audio and video chat and messaging tools and application sharing software by electronic means. What I think we should do, Mr. Staple, if you don't mind, is two things. First of all, let me say to you that the desire of this board is to have physical meetings to the extent possible and to allow access by shareholders to the meetings, including by virtual means. So we want to have an inclusive shareholder meeting that allows for physical presence. But we have all been taught that circumstances may make it difficult from time to time to have physical meetings. I don't expect that to be very frequent, but we have to allow for it. The good news, we have the technology. So that's the first point. We would like to have physical meetings. We would like to be inclusive. We would like to allow technology to allow us to do this, but in general, we would like to have physical meetings. What I'm suggesting we do for clarity is to ask Stefan Morrison, as Company Secretary, to read Article 55A, the proposal for that article, and then allow for any further questions on it. But I think for the benefit of everybody present, let's put the resolution on the table and then have a little discussion about it, because I think it's an important one. So with that, I'd like to ask Stefan Morrison to read it, and Stefan, give you the first opportunity to clarify any points that you'd like to clarify, and then open it up for discussion. After Mr. Stefan Morrison speaks.
Thank you, Chairman. Inserting Article 50A, which shall provide as follows: hybrid and virtual meetings. 55A, paragraph 1. To the extent permitted by law, the company may, in lieu of holding a physical meeting, convene and hold a meeting of its members as a hybrid meeting, or B, virtual meeting, and a hybrid meeting or virtual meeting shall be identified as such in the notice convening such meeting. For the purposes hereof, a hybrid meeting means a meeting held simultaneously by electronic means, as well as at a physical venue in which attendees, whether by electronic means or are present in person, simultaneously attend and participate in the proceedings of the meeting in real time. B, a virtual meeting means a meeting in which the attendees participate from numerous physical locations, whether inside or outside of Jamaica, through the facility of the internet or intranet by use of integrated audio and video, chat and messaging tools, and applications sharing software by electronic means. And C, a physical meeting means a meeting in which all attendees, A, are physically present together in one location, and B, participate in the meeting, in the business of the meeting, and interact with each other face to face. So paragraph 3. Notwithstanding anything to the contrary in these articles, the notice of a virtual meeting need not specify a place as a physical location, but shall include an electronic or virtual location or details sufficient to facilitate the attendance by members at an electronic or virtual location, and such a meeting shall be recorded as held in Jamaica. The notice of a hybrid meeting shall specify a physical location and an electronic or virtual location. So paragraph B. If the company holds a hybrid meeting, it shall have power to limit the number of persons in attendance at a physical venue to such number as is reasonable in all the circumstances. So paragraph 5. Where the company holds a hybrid meeting or a virtual meeting, the use of electronic means for the purpose of enabling members to attend such meeting may be made subject only to such requirements and restrictions as are A, necessary to ensure the identification of the members of the company and the security of the electronic communication. And B, necessary to provide reasonable evidence of the entitlement of any person who is not a member to attend such a meeting. So paragraph 6. A member who attends a hybrid meeting or a virtual meeting by electronic means shall vote by proxy or by such alternative means, including the use of electronic voting, as may otherwise be determined by the company. Notwithstanding anything to the contrary contained in these articles, a proxy form may be returned to the company by any electronic means prescribed by the company, and this shall be deemed as deposited at the registered office of the company and valid, provided that the company is able to identify that the proxy has been duly stamped in accordance with the applicable law. Paragraph 7. A member who participates in a general meeting, which is either a hybrid meeting or a virtual meeting, is deemed to be present at the general meeting and shall count to constitute a quorum. Any hybrid meeting or virtual meeting is deemed to have been convened and held in Jamaica and shall be governed by the laws of Jamaica. Final paragraph 8. Any failure of technology or any failure or inability of a member to attend or remain in a meeting held in accordance with these articles as a result of a mistake or of events beyond the control of the company shall not constitute a defect in the calling of such a meeting and shall be invalid and shall not invalidate any resolution passed or proceedings taking place at that meeting, provided that a quorum is present at all times.
So a couple of comments before. So obviously, we're now passing this resolution, so this would apply to the future. But Stefan, Mr. Staple had asked a question about, what would constitute a virtual meeting specifically, and whether this would work in the future, be a virtual meeting. And it has elements of a virtual meeting in that people are present, but I gather one particular element that needs to be met is that the register or the evidence of the person's attendance be available as part of the meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure that Mr. Staples' question is answered properly. Is that a fair answer, or do you? Yes,
I'd just like to add to that. Yeah. So the meeting that we're currently having is a physical meeting. It's not a virtual meeting, and it's not a hybrid meeting, which is one of the things that we'd want to change to enable the inclusiveness that our chairman spoke about. So currently, our articles as they are constituted don't allow us to have persons who are watching online be counted as being a part of the meeting. So those persons are merely observing what is happening. If they don't have their proxy, then they would not have been able to contribute to the meeting, and they're not counted as being present. So what this amendment seeks to do is allow those persons to be counted as being in the meeting, even though they're not physically present. That's not something that we can currently do under the articles. I'll also point out that the change in the articles only goes so far as the Companies Act has allowed us to do. So the Companies Act, having experienced what happened in 2020, realized how necessary it was to allow companies the flexibility to be able to make these changes. I'll reiterate that the changes does not prohibit us from now having physical meetings. Those will continue, but it gives the company the flexibility based on what is happening, whether it be a health pandemic, whether it be something else that we cannot foresee, that we have the flexibility with the directors that you've entrusted with the well-being of the company to make the decision in the best interest of the shareholders, to say, well, we're allowed to have it electronically, and based on what is going on, at least we can proceed in that manner, or virtually, you know, our member base of stockholders keep on expanding. Some people are abroad, and some people cannot attend for whatever reason, whether it be health. It would allow those persons to be able to participate in their company fully, just as if they were here. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Mr. Young?
If I do a mic check, if I do a, I don't say do food anglers permit. So my question, I have more than one answer. No. Based upon this virtual thing, Mr. Chairman, sometimes you're on the phone, and the wait you can't get you because other shareholder the black, you can't get you. So as maybe as me question, as me say that said to you, say 10 you can invite 10 and the rest online. You understand, Mr. Chairman? So me not too in the virtual business, me face to face. You understand?
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing you in the physical meetings in the future. So Mr. Staple.
I am of the firm conviction that this company will not, and I underline the word will not, allow us as shareholders not to be present at the meeting. I am of the firm opinion that you and your board members will allow us, irrespective of what is happening, to physically attend our AGMs. Thank you very much.
I share your opinion, Mr. Staple. Can I take this as your proposer? Will you be the proposer for the resolution? No, I take the suggestion. Can I ask you then to propose the resolution? All right, may I have a proposer? To Johnston. Second. Valerie Campbell, Terminal Manager. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, I declare the motion carried, and thank everybody for the comments on this, Mr. Young, and definitely we want you back in person. Article 59 deals with the same themes, but applies it not to any meeting, but in specific application to the annual general meeting and other extraordinary general meetings. So with that, may I ask Stefan Morrison to read the resolution before us.
Thank you, Chairman. While I'm reading the resolution, I will highlight the section that is being inserted in Article 59. An annual general meeting and a meeting called for the passing of a special resolution shall be called by at least 21 days' notice in writing. All other extraordinary general meetings shall be called by at least 14 days' notice in writing at the least. The notice shall be exclusive of the day on which it is served or deemed to be served, and of the day for which it is given, and shall specify the place. This is what is being inserted. Whether it is a physical meeting, a hybrid meeting, or a virtual meeting. That's the end of what is being inserted. The day and the hour of the meeting, and in case of special business, the general nature of that business, and shall be given in manner hereinafter mentioned, to or in such manner, if any, as may be prescribed by the company in general meetings, to such persons as are, under these articles of the company, entitled to receive such notice from the company. In the case of an annual general meeting, the notice shall specify the meeting as such. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Member Proposer. Flora Moody, a second. Charles Johnston, all in favor? Any opposed? I'll declare the motion carried. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the formal business of this annual general meeting. Thank you for attending and for your continued confidence and support, which is so necessary to our success. Mr. Staple.
I'm very saddened as to our early childhood education in the Middle East. Our youngsters are not able to add one and one unless they have this technology in their hand. They can't add one and one. When it comes to the language, they don't know the difference between a past tense and a present tense. Mr. Chair, I'm very saddened of our early childhood education. And I'm asking, Mr. Chair, if it is at all possible to give some attention or give a little bit more attention to our early childhood education so that our youngsters, as they grow up, will be able not to depend on technology to add one and one, and also that they will be able to write a letter using the correct tense, Mr. Chair. I'm saddened, I'm very saddened to see what is happening to our youngsters today. And I'm asking if Kingston Wharves could we look at their foundation and to look at what is happening and to help those little ones as they grow up, Mr. Chair, so that we can benefit in life as we grow older. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Staple. I definitely share your sentiment, and I will convey it to the team as we look at our overall corporate social responsibility, but also when we find ourselves in forums that can influence education policy, we'll also carry that message consistently. Mark, I want to thank you for your leadership of the business and for the results. And on behalf of the board, I ask you to convey that to the entire team. I now declare this meeting closed. Thank you for attending.